The Portfolio Committee, honorable members of the House, South Africans, our beautiful learners up there, I greet you all. Honorable Chairperson, it is always a pleasure to be part of the budget vote where the Department of Basic Education is provided an opportunity to present to Parliament how it will ensure that quality basic education is realized. Though in that context, again, as the Minister has touched on this, as a Portfolio Committee, we condemn with sadness the use of violence that threaten the culture of teaching and learning, especially that is taking place in Vuwan in Limpopo province. This has unfortunately led to among others, an arson attack of more than 22 schools in Vuwan in Limpopo. And really, as the Portfolio Committee, we are saying such protests are not acceptable, because at the end of the day, the learners are at the receiving end, and they are being at a disadvantage of the opportunities to learn and to make sure that by that learning they free themselves from the shackles of poverty. Sithi ANC umhlola uyakhuzwa lento eyenzeka kulezi indawo nesikubona kwenzeka kuqhubeka nakwezinye indawo ukuthi ezemfundo ukushiswa kwezikole nokumiswa kwezikole kube yikona la abantu befinyelela khona kalula ukuze izikhalo zabo idluliselwe. Sithi cha, akuphunywe ikhuzo imhlola. Yikho sibonga kakhulu uhulumeni kanye nabaholi the traditional leaders eindaweni ukuthi basukume bakhuze lo mhlolo ukuze ixazululo isheshe ifikeleke ezemfundo zikwazi ukukhululeka. The budget vote debate process is an additional process over and above our Portfolio Committee meetings and oversight that assist Parliament to hold the department to scrutiny. We stand here to exercise our role of holding the department to account. We are one of the committees that are consistent in exercising our oversight responsibility to the department. Emanating from our Portfolio Committee meetings, which are held almost every Tuesday, I've got few points to share with you. Firstly, we dare not forget that through our government, in 1990, we had 191,000 metric passes, but by 2015, the number has more than doubled to 465,863. Again, we dare not forget the efforts that had been made to increase the standard of question papers in order to bring quality passes and standards. We dare not forget again the plans to upscale the qualifications of at least 12,000 practitioners that have been prioritized by this department. We dare not forget again the plans to extend the resources of 1,000 libraries each year over the next 3 years, and we are very happy to say that the department has already outshined that target that is linked to Read to Learn, to Read to Lead campaign. Again, we dare not forget the department's plan to continue to provide ICT connectivity to all schools by the year 2020. Looking again, we cannot forget the plans to continue with the provision of inclusive education and curriculum differentiation. We appreciate the opportunities the Second Chance program will offer to our learners and the good change that Progress Learners policy will bring about. The process of merging some conditional grants and discontinuing of others is a sign of continued planning that we see in the department, and the interventions that drive improved quality basic education, particularly on the Math, Science and Technology grant, and the planned expansion of 1+4 intervention model to grade 7 by 2017, and the planned intervention to address the low levels of teacher competency, especially in maths and science. Honorable Chairperson, allow me again to borrow from one of the Africa's illustrious novelists, Chinua Achebe, when he said, I open quote, "One of the truest tests of integrity is its blunt refusal to be compromised." To be compromised, let me repeat again so that everyone can hear. We stand resolute and poised to defend the integrity and the nature of all the achievements we have recorded to all children across all races and poverty lines in the past years. We will continue to do robust oversight so that the integrity of our education system is not compromised. Chairperson, it is our view that the allocation to vote 14 of basic education presented to the Portfolio Committee of 22.2 billion is meant to further expand quality learning opportunities to our learners, to defend the integrity and nature of all achievements we have recorded over years. Further, it is a budget that seeks to address the challenges that remain so that our education system is not compromised. The challenges that remain are surmountable compared to the gains that we have made. We note that the allocation will increase to 24.8 billion over the MTEF as a continued effort by our government to open doors of learning for all. Providing learning opportunities to our learners, intensify the ANC's priority of reducing poverty and to address social challenges within the communities. The department indicated that the budget is allocated to, among other things, to focus on basic education priorities as outlined in the NDP and identified in the non-negotiables. These, amongst others, will include the continuous endeavor to improve curriculum delivery, ensure the adequate supply of quality teachers, assessing the quality of teaching and learning, provide comprehensive support on holistic development of young children through ECD programs, provide well-equipped libraries and promote reading, and intensify the ICT programs and school connectivity, and to improve the literacy, numeracy, mathematics, and science outcomes. Looking at the budget, we note that out of the 22.2 billion allocated, 16.2, that is 72.8% of that budget, which is a sizable portion of the budget, is allocated to the conditional grants which are administered by the provinces. This means that the delivery of education must be viewed in the context of concurrent functions as outlined in Schedule 4 of the Constitution. In concurrent function, the national government pursues policies and ensure uniform delivery on basic education while the provincial departments implement such policies. We have, however, noted disparities in provincial delivery and policies accompanied by varied audit opinions of the provinces. This is worrying considering that some provinces perpetually continue to receive poor audit outcomes, opinions, and demonstrate persistent inefficiencies and lack of accountability. Therefore, provincial policy implementation, financial planning, provincial budget monitoring are important and must be strengthened by the department. We are encouraged by the department in enforcing the adherence to the national norms and standards for school funding policy, where the National Department of Basic Education will make follow-ups with the relevant provincial department education quarterly in order to improve audit outcomes and ensure that schools are funded at a required minimal level. We take appreciation that while we have noted that the indicators have developed to measure and report mainly in the DBE-driven initiatives based on DBE budget, but that will not, however, exempt DBE from playing the role of oversight and monitoring the Provincial Education Department as one of the key mandates in terms of the National Education Policy Act, the NEPA. Ngokubona ke lezi zinto sihlalo Portfolio Committee sibize wonke sibe nomhlangano omkhulu la sibize sikhona zonke izifundazwe ezisishagalolunye kanye nomnyango wezemfundo sahlala phansi ndawonye sixoxisana ngalezi zinselele ezithinta umkhakha wezemfundo lapho sabelene khona ngolwazi abanalo ukuze sibhekane nezinselele ezibhekene nemfundo. Siyathanda ukubika ukuthi lo mhlangano ube impumelelo enkulu owenze ukuthi Portfolio Committee ikwazi ukuqonda kabanzi ifinyelele ixoxe nezifundazwe ukuthi ikuphi la ingqinamba ingaxazuleka khona. Sihlangene lo mhlangano sikwazile ukuthi izifundazwe zonke zethule ucwaningo olujulile lwezinselelo kanti futhi nekomiti liqinisekisiwe ukuthi ukusebenza okulindekekile kuzoqhubeka ngendlela efanele kuleli komiti. Chairperson, curriculum delivery in schools, support to curriculum delivery and monitoring need to be strengthened. We note that curriculum delivery program is allocated 1.9 billion with 1.3 billion of the allocation going to the curriculum and quality enhancement program. The findings during the committee oversight to KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape drew attention to some challenges and the shortcomings in the system. Some of them are operational and some structural in terms of curriculum delivery and quality. In most schools visited, there were clear indications that schools do not complete or cover the full syllabus. There was no evidence of curriculum monitoring by circuit manager and district officials due to the lack of human resource monitoring plan, some principal consistent to poor quality of school-based assessment. The main concern was that teachers were unable to set appropriate cognitive level questions to assess learners due to the lack of knowledge and understanding of SBA and support and monitoring. Our view is that progress in this regard is hampered by the capacity of the district to support the schools. In some districts, officials were surprised by the challenges in school at the same time as the portfolio committee. We are pleased that there are plans to review Chapter 4 of CAPS in order to strengthen school-based assessment as well as expand implementation of in-school monitoring and support model. We support this budget because the department presented before us a rigorous plan to change the situation around in terms of SBA. The budget allocation this year further exalts the committee and the commitment of the ANC-led government to educating and skilling our children. The introduction of the three-stream model responds to the ANC Mangaung deliberations that encourage the exploration of the model that will establish the curriculum for the technical schools. The NDP recorded that the different parts of the work of education system should work together, allowing learners to take different pathways that offer different avenues, that offer high-quality learning opportunity. Further, the NDP draws attention to the need for urgently mediating the high dropout rate of learners through basic schooling system by increasing learner retention to 90% and allowing for an increase on number of learners entering vocational and occupational pathways. This was indeed one of the huge gaps in the system, particularly because it affected learners, more especially those with special education needs. While the level of access to education show great achievement, the ANC in particular entrenching more effort in improving quality basic education and increasing access to learners with special needs in education. For us to bridge this gap of quality education, we need to start to address the issues of access to education of all learners with special needs and improve curriculum delivery. And that is one way and one of the areas that as a portfolio committee we have engaged the department on, and we are pleased to say as the portfolio committee, it's one area where we have even opened up the platform for all the NGOs and the stakeholders that have got interest in education, more especially interest on special education, where we had good deliberations, where we advised the department of what is it that can be done moving forward. And we hope and believe that that gap that is still remaining, but the department is working very hard on, it's one of the gaps that is going to be closed very soon. Chairperson, we are pleased that the department is taking radical and bold steps to bring about change in this matter by, among other things, develop a collaborative action plan that will cater for more than 600,000 out-of-school children with disability, strengthen capacity of curriculum in order to support schools for the deaf, and continue to train all the teachers in the sector to implement the screening, identification, assessment, and support policy that is normally known as SEARS, and the curriculum differentiation. The Teacher Education Human Resource is a program that is allocated 1.1 billion, of which 1 billion is allocated to education human resource development. Teacher education and development programs are directly required in the sector. Chairperson, we advise the department that there is a need for a serious translation of the integrated strategy planning framework for teacher development. We support this allocation because we are of the view that it will assist in helping teachers develop better ways of delivering curriculum. And 1 minute, thank you so much. Slalo. Chairperson, on our oversight, we always come across the need for teacher development and also making sure that teachers do respect the work, the triple T's that they must be at school and at all times. And we really urge the department to make sure that that one is not compromised at all. Therefore, 2016-17 budget vote sets a high-paced progress in addressing the challenges, and this budget we need to support so that we overcome those challenges. The ANC supports the budget vote. Honorable Chair, although we note that there continue to be challenges along the way, our flames of progress and commitment to up the standard will blind the cynics and the doomsayers, as they are always there.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister,
thank you.
We thank you for the continued
Time
support
is
and the
up.
accountability that we always show to the
Thank you
community.
very much.
ANC supports the budget vote. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Honorable Davis.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Let me begin by offering our thoughts to the children of Ruwani in Limpopo, where 24 schools were burned to the ground in the last week. Whichever way you look at it, these acts of vandalism have set us back in our task of redressing the legacy of unequal education in our country. And today I want to discuss this legacy of inequality, starting at the very root of it. In 1953, Hendrik Verwoerd introduced the reprehensible policy of Bantu education. This policy limited the educational opportunities of black South Africans to ensure a steady supply of cheap, unskilled and semi-skilled labour.
Order, honorable members.
13 years later, in this very chamber, Verwoerd was stabbed to death by a parliamentary support officer. And there was nothing tragic about this. The only tragic thing about that day was that Verwoerd's policies did not die with him. Indeed, Verwoerd's ghost haunts us in this chamber today. Because the reality is, the chances of a poor black child getting a decent education in a democratic South Africa are still very, very remote. And
Order, honorable members. Order.
And the uncomfortable truth, Honourable Chairperson, is that the gap in our education system, despite what the Minister says, is getting wider. Just look at the facts. In schools in the most affluent areas, what are called quintile 5 schools, the matric pass rate has remained steady at around 90% over the past 3 years. But in schools in the poorest areas, the quintile 1 schools, the matric pass rate has dropped from 70% to 61% in the last 3 years. And in these schools, the physical science pass rate has dropped from 60% to 49%, and the mathematics pass rate has dropped from 48% to 36%. So what is going wrong? It is not a question of funding. This budget stands at 219 billion rand, which is almost 1/5 of the national budget. And quite correctly, the state spends 6 times more on poor learners than it does on learners in more affluent areas. So how is it that 2 decades into our democracy, poor black children are falling behind? The answer lies in the quality and the quantity of teaching. Because the truth is that for every excellent and dedicated teacher in a disadvantaged school, there are many more who can't teach and many more who won't teach. And this problem will not go away until we break the SAT2 protection racket that shields underperforming teachers from accountability. We therefore welcome the Minister's plan to license and professionalise teaching, but we know that SAT2 will try and block this proposal. We trust, Minister, that you will have the courage to follow through with this plan despite what SAT2 says. And in this regard, we are disappointed that on Friday, the Minister buckled under SAT2 pressure and postponed yet again the release of the Jobs for Cash report. If it ever sees the light of day, this report will show that SAT2 has captured 6 out of 9 provincial education departments. We just hope that Minister Motshekga's failure to release it doesn't mean that she has been captured by SAT2 as well. Honourable Chairperson, today Minister Motshekga mentioned her department's proposal for a 3...
Order, honorable members. Honorable Davis, please wait. Honorable members, order. Order, honorable members. You cannot, honorable members, you cannot make such a lot of noise about the pronunciation. Please, don't do that. Continue, honorable member.
Today, Minister Motshekga mentioned her department's proposal for a 3-stream system made up of an academic stream, a technical stream, and an occupational stream. In principle, we support the introduction of technical and occupational education for learners who do not have the aptitude to cope in the traditional academic stream. We must be wary, however, of the Minister's target to offer 60% of all learners occupational subjects like hairdressing, beauty care, nail technology, upholstery and bricklaying by 2030. because we know that weak schools will be under huge pressure to push failing learners into the occupational stream, even if these learners could have coped in an academic stream had they received better schooling. Take Kwabamu Junior Secondary in Zululand, for example. All 37 learners at this school failed matric last year. All 37 learners. That's a 0% pass rate. These learners didn't fail because they were in the wrong stream. They failed because the school system failed them. Honourable Chairperson,
1 minute.
the policy of Bantu education was reprehensible because it limited the educational opportunities of poor black learners. We must make sure that this three-stream approach announced by the Minister does not do the same. On that note, we would also like to warn Minister Motshekga against taking another backward step, and that is the dilution of school governing bodies' powers as contemplated in the draft Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill. School governing bodies give communities a voice in how schools are run. They are the difference between a public school system in a democracy and a state school system in an authoritarian regime like apartheid. Honourable Chairperson, we cannot redress the legacy of the past by mimicking the past. We must guard against the return of Bantu education, and we must never go back to the state school system of the apartheid era. The only way to exorcise Vuvut's ghost is by improving the quality and quantity of teaching in disadvantaged schools.
Thank you very much.
So let us move forward with boldness and courage, and
Thank
let us
you.
break SAT2's stranglehold on our public education
Thank
system.
you, Honourable
I thank you.
Davis. Thank you very much. Sibuyise se latelang ke Motlhomphegi Matloko. Order, honourable
Chairperson-
members.
Chairperson,
Order.
the economic freedom fighters reject this budget. I will tell you why. I will tell you why.
Order.
Firstly, the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education and the National Assembly both have failed in their constitutional duty to hold the executive to account. The Minister of Basic
Order,
Education
honourable members.
has napped Parliament for too long, with no action taken against her. She has plainly refused to come to account for her department's action, and she refuses to come and answer questions in the National Assembly.
Order, honourable members.
Secondly, what we have seen over the past 22 years is the unabated continuation of a Verwoerd education system, with the quality of education made available to poor black children vastly inferior to that made available to rich white kids. Ah, shame, ANC. It even took a Supreme Court of Appeals judgment to force the department to deliver books to schools in Limpopo, and another court judgment to force the department to make teachers available to poor schools in the Eastern Cape. How are children
Order.
meant to learn freely when many of them do not have proper abolition facilities in schools? How is the government pursuing the stated objective of knowledge creation if 22,938 schools do not have stock libraries, while 19,541 do not even have a space for a library? What kind of caring government that requires multiple petitions, letter writing, marches to Parliament, and finally litigation just to agree to create safe, healthy, and learner-friendly environment in schools? This department has also allowed itself to be hijacked by their corrupt allies in SATU, who have practically taken over.
Order.
Who have practically taken over responsibility of hiring and firing teachers in KwaZulu-Natal. This is what education provision has come to mean for the ANC. A result of poor state of education, primarily the poorest parts of the country, has led disparate parents to look for education for their kids in more affluent provinces, stretching the capacity of those provinces to provide proper quality education. The 22.3 billion the department is getting for the 2016-2017 financial year is not geared towards any significant and qualitative transformation of the basic education sector.
1 minute.
It does nothing to reduce the basic education center to ensure, amongst other things, that the country stop the massive dropout rates between grade 1 and grade 12, which has led to only half the number of students who enter grade 1 sitting for their grade 12 examination. When the EFF takes over government, we shall completely reorient the education system to ensure that our
Order.
focus is not only on matric pass rates, but on the entire education system. When we take over municipalities, we will make sure that we refurbish community halls and resources, then to make them centers of learning for students who have no access to libraries and the
Thank
internet.
you very much,
The
Honorable
ANC and the
Matloko.
DA
Ra
both fall
Ra
far too
leboga,
short
Ntate
for
Matloko.
appreciating the challenges of
Ntate
basic
Matloko, ra
education.
leboga. Order, honorable members, order. The next order, honorable members. Isikhulumo esilandelayo umhlonishwa Singh. Order, honorable members. Can we hear the speaker out?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. At the outset, let me say I am presenting these inputs on behalf of Honorable Msimang, who is indisposed and who serves on this committee, and on behalf of the IFP. Firstly, we must say as the IFP how dismayed we are at the recent wanton destruction of schools in the area of Vuwani in Limpopo. This is reminiscent of the pre-democracy slogan and rallying crying of the ruling party, liberation before education. The IFP has always, even during that time, championed the slogan, education for liberation. And we say so even today, even though we've got political liberation, because economic liberation still eludes many of our people. Schools destroyed, our children's futures destroyed. Secondly, Honorable Chairperson, when the Department of Basic Education became a standalone department, de-linked from higher education and training in 2009, the purpose was to enable it to focus exclusively on the improvement of quality of basic education in this country. A substantially large budget allocation of about 5% of the GDP to basic education as against 1.4% allocated to Minister Nzimande is a further indication that this sector has been made the apex educational priority in the government's program. Some 6 years down the line now, we must reflect and ascertain whether the outcomes achieved match the amount of the investment. We should use as a benchmark the quality of the examination results, particularly at national senior certificate level, as well as the level of productivity by its graduates and professionals in the socio-economic milieu. In passing, however, Chairperson, the IFP notes the strides that have been made in the area of early childhood development, national school nutrition program, and an increasing number of no-fees paying schools. We welcome these. However, when we look at the examination results, it does not speak well of the department, not only at the national level, but at provincial level, especially where the rural provinces of Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Limpopo are concerned. Admittedly, there are several schools, even in these provinces, which have always stood out as shining examples of excellence with their commendable results, and many of them are in rural areas. But these are the exceptions rather than the rule. So, Honourable Chairperson, it begs the question, what went wrong and what is going wrong? There are many causes such as lack of infrastructure and unsatisfactory provision of learning and teaching materials, which we accept. But let me focus on the quality of the relevant teachers. Many of our teachers have not been adequately reskilled and inducted to cope with the incessant revisions of the curriculum, which culminated recently in CAPS. Many teachers were sure that grade 12 results by their pupils were going to expose and embarrass them turned to unethical tactics, and some of the governing body members were complicit in this. They became complicit in the leaking of
1
examination
minute.
papers, leading to large-scale group copying in 2014. This was a great embarrassment to the department in particular and the country in general. When the Amalosi Council introduced stringent checks and balances to prevent group copying, these teachers found themselves at wits' end. Their learners failed in large numbers in 2015. The worst outcome is that some 22 schools achieved a 0% pass rate at grade 12 level. This is simply unacceptable. Moreover, there are some teachers who make sure that subjects like technology, maths, or sciences are not taught in the schools. And this does the learners a huge disservice because these subjects are essential at university level and are imperative to enable our children to be functional. Needless to say,
Thank you,
a lot
Honorable
still needs to be
Singh.
done in the
The
area of
time
promotion and
has
development
gone.
of our teachers.
Your time has
We will
expired.
support this budget vote. Thank
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable Mabika.
House Chair, basic education in South Africa is not performing as well as it could be expected. Our matric rate dropped from 75.8 in 2014 to 70.3 in 2015, with a substantial variation across the 9 provinces. This variation tells us that some provincial departments have a lot to account for, but we have yet to see one MEC take responsibility for dismal performances, particularly in the Eastern Cape, Limpopo, and KwaZulu-Natal, where performance is significantly lower than the national average. Lento ka MEC wase KZN yokuthi izingane efeyliswa ukuthi nayo uyafunda is not reason enough. Futhi ayiphele lento yokuthi izingane mase zifeyilisiwe sitshela ukuthi zifeyile ngoba exam ibilikhuni. Sibe singakaze sitshela ukuthi maziphasile ziphasa ngoba examination kade ilula. The NFP is also concerned about the issue of SATU being allowed to behave as an employer in schools in the recent jobs for cash scandal, which has rocked the Department of Education. We urge the Honorable Minister to release the MTT report as a matter of priority in the interest of transparency and accountability, even if it means soaring relations with a subsidiary of ANC's alliance partner. South Africans need to know who are in control of employment in our schools, the department or SATU. We still wonder how much was misused on honor that was rejected by unions last year. We note that approval that a significant proportion of department's budget is allocated to Program 4, which includes schools' infrastructure delivery program. We are also reminded that the Honorable Minister has announced on previous occasions that she will be opening a school every week in the Eastern Cape. The NFP wishes to know how far the program has gone and how many schools have since been opened. Another area of concern to the NFP is the issue of corruption and lack of transparency in the awarding of nutrition tenders by district officials. An example is the recent closing in April of 8 schools in Umches in KwaZulu-Natal. The parents objected the service providers of the school feeding schemes, which were awarded contracts at district level, ignoring local service providers. We fully support school nutrition schemes where preference is given to local service providers, in particular cultivators of local community gardens and cooperatives which benefit women and youth. Finally, the NFP reiterates its call that we urgently need dedicated teachers' colleges to be established.
1 minute.
The quality of our basic education is being compromised by insufficient trained teachers as much as it compromised by overcrowding, lack of infrastructure, sports and science facilities, and general lack of efficient government management of the system. The sooner we can get properly trained teachers back in classrooms, the sooner we will be able to tackle the other pressing needs. Your 10-day statistics minister is just useless as schools continue to get allocations based on previous enrollments, which is problematic to the growing schools. With all those, Chairperson, the NFP supports the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now call on the Deputy Minister of Education, Honorable Silke, to take the debate forward.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister of Basic Education, Minister Naledi Pandor, Minister of Science and Technology, Minister Bladen Zimande, Minister of Higher Education and Training. I'm indeed heartened, and other ministers who are here and esteemed members, I'm indeed heartened to see both Minister Nzimande and Minister Pandor to be here, because this year we celebrate 20 years of the adoption of our Constitution. And indeed, if we speak about the founding fathers and mothers of the Constitution, we could say that two of them are seated here, and I've had the pleasure of working with them in this very, very chamber when we discuss the challenges with regard to the achievement of equality and freedom. As we do so, we also reflect on the enormous contribution by Dean Smuts, a member of great intellectual capacity, who would also shared with us and certainly involved with us in very robust debates with regard to the finalization of the Bill of Rights. Honorable Chairperson, this is also the 60th anniversary of the march of our brave women from all corners of the country who fought for the freedom and liberation of our country and who said away with the Dompas. I could quote from Lillian Ngoyi, I could have quoted from Sophie de Bruyn or Rahima Musa, but I would like to draw the attention of the Honorable House to the first words spoken by Nelson Mandela on the 24th of May 1994, and he had the following to say: "The time will come when our nation will honor the memory of all the sons and daughters, the mothers, the fathers, the youth and the children who by their thoughts and deeds gave us the right to assert with pride that we are South Africans, we are Africans, and we are citizens of the world." And indeed, as he did so, he reflected on the incredible contribution of an Afrikaner poet and an Afrikaner activist who gave up her life for our freedom and equality. She was Ingrid Jonker. And she had the following to say, and he quoted her in his speech: "The child is not dead. The child lifts his fists against his mother, who shouts, 'Africa.' The child is not dead, not at Langa, not at Nyanga, not at Orlando, not at Sharpo, not at the police post at Philippi, where he lies with a bullet through his brain. The child is present at all assemblies and law-giving. The child peers through the windows of houses and into the hearts of mothers. This child, who only wanted to play with in the sun in Nyanga, is everywhere. The child, grown to a man, treks on through all Africa, and the child, grown to a giant, journeys over the world without a pass." That Dom pass, that atrocious peace that we had to carry out, and that was what the struggle for freedom and liberation was. But in 1996, we had an extraordinary situation where we had to appoint the Chief Justice in South Africa, and because of a vacancy. 100 white judges protested against the appointment of the silver-tongued orator, the deep intellect Chief Justice Ismail Mohammed, the first Chief Justice in the country. And quite incredibly, all the judges of the Supreme Court of Appeal opposed his appointment, notwithstanding his incredible record. And for the information of colleagues, particularly those who raise the issues of equality and inequity, we want to draw your attention to the fact that in 1957, when he was admitted as an advocate, he was not allowed to occupy chambers, had to borrow the desk of colleagues for 12 continuous years. And 5 years thereafter, he was not, after achieving silk, he was not allowed to use the common room of the chambers in Johannesburg, where liberal lawyers practice. And yet when he was nominated as a result of his incredible intellectual depth and jurisprudence, it was 100 white judges that had opposed his application. But it is through the able leadership of Chief Justice Ismail Mohammed, Arthur Chaskelson, Pius Langa, that we were able to transform the judiciary. And I want you to hear and listen to the pain when he reflects on this matter, and I quote: "There is nostalgia and satisfaction, even pride in the recall, but also so much pain and shame, richness and fulfillment, but also humiliation and indignity, all strangely coalescing in a dance culminating in some perceptions with a vindicating crescendo. The pain and the humiliation were intense, my status was determined by reference not to what I was, but what I was not. I was non-white. It set and imposes on me a badge of inferiority sought to be written on my forehead. Its dominant consequences manifested itself in rejection and exclusion. These exclusions inflicted deep wounds inside me, often revive in a telling with a special kind of pain, but without bitterness." Unquote. Honorable Chairperson, I raise this in the context of the fact that it is, notwithstanding the efforts at transformation, notwithstanding the incredible leadership that we've had in this country, we find a situation where a sitting judge named Mabel Johnson portrays the blacks in a particularly negative way. And he says, she says, I still have to meet a black girl who was not raped when she was about 12. She says, mothers are so brainwashed that they tell their children that it is the father's birthright to be first. She says, and gang rapes of babies, daughters, and a mother is a pleasurable pastime for blacks. That is the view of a sitting judge. And what we are saying to you, Honorable Chair, members, is that the point here is that the issue of racism is not something that has to be forgotten. It is about the dignity of our people, the dignity that we work so hard for, and it's the dignity that we should be committed to. And indeed, if you think that there is an exception, we just have to look at the week before, when a gentleman basically used the K word because he was disgruntled and disappointed about the transformation statement that was made by the Minister of Sport and Agriculture. Yes, indeed, they had apologized. Yes, indeed, they said they were quoted out of context. But the words speak for themselves and says that we have to confront this demon of racism. Now, the narrative that we hear, and we often hear, and I want the EFF to listen to this, to say that we have not changed. Today in South Africa, 8 out of 10 children go to no-fee schools. They don't have to pay a cent. Today in South Africa, 55,000 workbooks are delivered free of charge to every child, black and white, quintile 1 to quintile 5. Today in South Africa, more than 10 million children are fed every day a nutritious meal free of charge. Today in South Africa, more than 50,000 extra learners had written matric last year than the year before. Today in South Africa, more than 80,000 bachelor's classes were produced by quintile 1, 2, and 3 schools. Today in South Africa, we can say last year we had 10,000 more learners that passed mathematics. We can say last year we had 10,000 more learners that passed science. And indeed, the challenge is great. Indeed, the honorable member of the EFF, and I wish he would attend meetings of the Portfolio Committee, will know that today in South Africa, more than 92% of our children have received at least 1 year of preschool learning. Today in South Africa, every child, black and white, receives every child, black and white, receives 4 books free of charge delivered to him and her. Today in South Africa, we can pronounce with certainty and empirically and scientifically that in the past 3 years, indeed, our learners have improved year after year in terms of literacy and numeracy. And what the Minister is indicating to you in the preliminary report is that, astoundingly, much to the disbelief of our opponents, we have indeed gone beyond the mean of achievement of 500 marks. That is something that we should celebrate. Yes, challenges abound. We certainly have challenges with regard to infrastructure, but just through the ASIDI program, we were able to deliver more than 38 schools. That means that the average of a school per week was indeed fulfilled. But if we take into account also the contribution of provinces who are responsible for infrastructure, in the past 5 years, we have delivered 641 state-of-the-art schools. That is indeed an achievement. We recognize the value and importance of professional developments, Mr. Singh, of our educators. And certainly that is critical and central to the achievement of quality education. We now have a situation where we've established 147 teacher resource centers, 80 of which are fully connected. We have trained more than 25,000 principals and deputy principals in leadership and management. More than 1,000 special advisors have been trained, and more than 70,000 teachers have been trained in terms of teaching English as the first additional language, because language has indeed been a barrier. We continue this recognizing that the challenges in education are enormous. But we recognize that we've overcome the challenges of access, that year after year we are improving in terms of quality. And indeed, the issues that confront KwaZulu-Natal, the Eastern Cape, are being dealt with. The Minister herself has visited each of these provinces more than twice. And we recognize that we have to support and intervene, and indeed that is what the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee had said that we should do. Now, school safety is critical, and we have to create an environment that is conducive to learning and teaching. But we've ensured that we work with the Department of Police, with the South African Police Service, and then 17,325 schools have partnered with the South African Police Service for purposes of safety and security. As we move forward, we recognize that challenges abound. We will continue, and we must continue to do better. The story of the 21st century would be the story of ICT, the provision of technology. Very few of us are aware of the fact that our workbooks are all digitized, that grades 1, 2, and 3 are indeed interactive. We can share with you that 94 editions of senior high school have been digitized and are available to all our schools. That grades 10, 11, and 12 have mathematics, science, and science textbooks that have been digitized, and the intellectual property resides with the Department of Education. Every school across the country, grades 4, 5, and 6, are using digitized textbooks from the Department of Basic Education. It is our intention and hope that by the end of next year, every single subject across every single grade will have a common textbook, a minimum core textbook, so that we can say whether you have a cell phone, whether you have a smartphone, whether you have an iPad, whether you have a tablet, you are able to download this content free of charge. And in terms of our partnership, in terms of our partnership with the Vodacom and other partners, they are willing to host our education cloud so that when the data is downloaded, it would be free of charge. This means indeed that we are breaking into the 21st century, ensuring that we enhance technology as a critical and significant enabler. But how then do we deal with the issues, not of knowledge, not of skills, but of attitudes and values? It means that we have to confront the reality that faces our schools and our communities. We share this through our moot court competitions where we deal constantly with human rights. And we can celebrate the fact that our South African team, made up of blacks and whites, have won in The Hague the international competition in the moot court. That every year the finalists of our learners who participate in the moot court competition are able to do so with pride before judges in the Constitutional Court, and we thank the judiciary for making that possibility available to them. We recognize the fact that we are celebrating 40 years of the 1976 uprisings. And to do so, we've dedicated a heritage project in terms whereof we would ask our learners to examine the impact of Bantu education on our society and to interview and engage with those people who had participated in the 1976 uprising to show what the effect of imposing a language or providing inferior quality to our learners is. We are not suggesting at all that we've achieved parity. We are not suggesting at all that we've achieved or we have reached our destination. We are saying with strength, with conviction, and with resilience that an artist's journey has indeed begun. But we have a system of education that we can all collectively be proud of, to say that it is not the result of only the work of the Department of Basic Education, it is the work of all our social partners and those who believe that together we can do more. Honorable Chairperson, we want to say to you with regard to ICT that we've had an Operation Pakiza. And the Pakiza operation is a rapid results operation in terms of ICT. 6 years ago, in the Eastern Cape, only 18% of the schools were connected for administrative purposes with ICT. Today, we can celebrate the fact that 96% of the schools in the Eastern Cape have ICT connectivity. And we can celebrate the fact that 97% of our schools have ICT. We've established a database of more than 11,200,000 learners. And indeed, we want to make that active so that we would in real time be able to assess where the teachers are, what they're doing, what the curriculum coverage is. Honorable Chairperson, all this could not be achieved without the able leadership of our Minister, Minister Angie Motshekga. We thank her for a robust leadership her leadership with conviction. And I'm indeed honored that Honorable Naledi Pandor is here, because she had set down the foundations for early childhood development. I had the benefit of working with her too, and I want to tell her that what you are seeing here is indeed the fruits of the hard work that you've put into place. Honorable Nzimande is here, and we thank him for the collaboration that we've had in relation to the introduction of the vocational stream. Today we have a technical mathematics, a technical science, and thousands of our learners are able to go into the vocational stream. Next year they would choose both three streams, an academic stream, a vocational stream, and an occupational stream. The DG and his able team of men and women and the MEC of Gauteng, he is here. Power to ICT, power to the MEC.
Thank you very much, Honorable
Thank you very much for
Deputy
the
Minister.
collaboration. Let me just conclude by saying the success of education, Honorable Chairperson, is that we work not as political parties, but as a system of partners.
Thank you very much. We now call on Honorable Boshoff.
Honourable Chair, the National Department of Basic Education crows about its successes in meeting the Millennium Development Goal to primary education. But as I speak, close on 500,000 disabled children are denied access to any form of education. All learners, Honourable Minister, regardless of their physical, intellectual, social or emotional condition, have the right to education, as this is a universal right, and education is the only vehicle to life outside of poverty. Inclusive education mandates that schools should accommodate all learners, but unfortunately the current education system isolates many learners with special needs and disabilities due to the lack of sufficient schools, appropriately trained educators, and expense. As Minister, special needs schools are not quintiled. Madam Chair, the DBE has committed itself to the ideal of equal and inclusive education for all. It is a realizable right and may not be subject to limitations with regard to available sources. In 2005, the time frame for development of a single inclusive system of education was set for 20 years with certain key strategies. Honourable Minister, we are 11 years down the line and still the Department is far from reaching their targets in this regard. The Department must promote a sense of belonging so that all learners, staff and families experience a sense of worth in the learning community. All provincial education departments must have the capacity to respond to diversity by providing appropriate education for particular needs of each learner, irrespective of their disability or differences in learning, style or pace, or social difficulties experienced. Methods must be established to assist curriculum and institutional transformation to ensure an awareness of diversity. Additional support must be made available to every single learner that needs it, as well as educators. Resourcing, be it financial or otherwise, also needs to be looked into. It may no longer be allowed that schools catering only for learners without disabilities continue receiving the lion's share of the budget and special needs schools be left with the crumbs. Honourable Minister, looking at the 2015 national matric results for learners with disabilities, it is absolutely clear that these learners are determined to prove their worth, even if they are at times neglected when it comes to sufficient books, educators, schools, braille machines, etc. Minister, by ratifying the Convention of Rights for People with Disabilities in 2007, you bound yourself to this when South Africa recognized the right of persons with disabilities to education.
Honourable Member, 1 minute left.
I urge you to ensure that more attention is paid to inclusive education and special need education. Learners with disabilities deserve the same freedom and the same fairness as those without. In order to realize this right without discrimination, an inclusive education system on all levels must be implemented. Chair, special needs education is definitely not a good story to tell. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member Boshoff. I will now call upon Honorable Member D.H. Kosa.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, all Honorable Ministers present and Deputy Ministers, our guests in the gallery, the viewers at home, manene na manenegas. Namisheweta inkwenu, inhlikani lo unene, lochani, Realocha, Madume, Sanbonani, Botan. Mtsamu wa xitulu I ntsako lowukulu eka mina ku yima emahlweni ka n'wina ku ta vulavula hi mpimanyeto ximali wa ndzawulo ya dyondzo ya le hansi. Xo sungula ndzi rhandza ku vulavula leswaku hi ri African National Congress hi pfumelelana na mpimanyeto lowu nga wona wu nga ta yisa tidyondzo ta vana va hina emahlweni. Ndzi pfumelele mtshami wa xitulu ku vula leswaku dyondzo I xitlhangu xa vutomi. Ehandle ka dyondzo munhu a nge swi koti ku hlula ndlala ni vusweti. Hikwalaho hi ri African National Congress hi pfumelelana na mpimanyeto lowu wa ndzawulo ya tidyondzo ta le hansi ta 2016-17. Hi ni ntshembo leswaku hi mpimanyeto lowu migingiriko na tiprojeke hinkwato leti kunguhatiweke ti ta fikeleriwa. Mtshami wa xitulu wa swi tiva leswaku hi Freedom Charter yi hlamuserile leswaku minyangwa ya dyondzo yi ta pfumeleriwa un'wana ni un'wana ku hambana na leswi a swi vula hi murhangeri wa valungu loyi a tshama exitulwini lexi va ku I Fairwood. Chairperson, in the 5th democratic government, we have noted as the ANC that skills, knowledge, education are very important to every member of the society to realize and participate in the social and economic life. While we acknowledge that education plays a crucial role in freeing our people socially and economically, the reality is that social and economic burdens remain the obstacle to the attainment of the better life of all our people. Mtshami wa xitulu a swi va oloveli vana va hina lava humaka evuswetini ku ti lulamisela vumundzuku lebyinene leswaku va ta humelela hikwalaho ko pfumala dyondzo. Hikwalaho hi vona swi fanerile leswaku mfumo lowu rhangeleke hi vandla ra African National Congress wu fanekele ku lwa hi matimba ku vona leswaku vana va fikelela dyondzo leyi antswaka leswaku na vona va ta hoxa xandla eka ikhonomi ya tiko ra vona. Chairperson, it's an open secret that the high prevalent socio-economic challenges confronting the majority of our learners are poverty, wellness, health and nutrition. These include barriers to learning and inclusivity, safety and the lack of care and support for the learners. These issues, Chairperson, have strong potential of hampering access to education and further to compromise the quality of our education. The most worrying factor is that these challenges have a strong potential of eroding the gains in the learner retention and contribute to the high dropout rates. Therefore, there cannot be a better way to address poverty alleviation and improve the health of our children other than through ensuring that children in school are assisted. That is why, Chairperson, dealing with these challenges created by apartheid, the challenge of poverty, inequality and unemployment has been a priority to the caring ANC-led government. And we believe as ANC that such will go a long way in addressing the right to education and realizing the quality education which the DA do not want to see happening. Mutshami wa xitulu, nhlangano wa African National Congress wu tiyimisela ku lwa na vusweti nakambe mbuyelo wa kona wa vonakala kusukela hi sungurile mfumo wa xidemokirasi hi 1994. na mavandla yo kaneta loko karhi va vona kwala ka voko ra ximatsi mutshami wa xitulu va swi vona hambiloko va ringeta ku honisa eka lembe ximali ra 2016-17 nongonoko wa mphakelo wa swakudya exikolweni wu nyikiwe mpimanyeto wo ringana 6.29 billion leyi engeteriweke kusuka eka 5.97 billion a mi tshame mi swi vona kwihi eka mfumo wa xihlawuhlawu xana a swi nga ri kona ene a swi nga ta va kona loko wo rhangela hi vandla leri nga tshama hala ka ximatsi mi nga endli xihoxo ku va hlawula a va mi lavi nakatsongo hina va ANC ha tinyungubyisa swinene hi leswi endleriwaka vana va hina exikolweni hikuva va kuma swakudya va kota ku endla mintirho ya xikolo va xurhile va languteriwa ne le tlhelweni ra mavabyi va kuma tibuku mahala va na mabazi ya ku va rhwala ya va yisa exikolweni leswi mina loko a dyondza xikolo at the age of 7 a ni famba 15 kilometers hi milenge ni nga dokanga na tintangu a va hakeli nchumu loko va dyondza exikolweni swi endliwa mahala eka vandla ra ku rhangela hi ANC vatswari va vana va xavisela swikolo matsavu kambe van'wani va kota ku pfuneta ku swekela vana va vona va tlhela va hakeriwa leswi hi swin'wana leswi endlaka leswaku hi ri vandla ra ANC hi ringeta ku kota ku lwa na vusweti swi tlhela swi endla leswaku vaaki va kota ku hoxa xandla eka ikhonomi ya tiko ra hina mutshami wa xitulu mphakelo wa swakudya eka vana wu ndlandlamukile ku fikela eka vana lava swikolo swa le henhla ti-secondary schools hikuva hi ri vandla ra ANC ha kota ku swi vona ku ndlala a yi khomi vana lava va nga eka swikolo swa le hansi ntsena hikwalaho hi rhandza no ndhundhuzela ndzawulo ya dyondzo eka goza leri va ri tekeke eka ntirho lowo saseka swonghasi hi rhandza ku khensa ntirhisano exikarhi ka ndzawulo ya dyondzo na ya vutleketli eka ku khomisana ka vona entirhweni wo heleketa vana eswikolweni hambiloko eka tiprovince tin'wana ha swi vona swi koho swirhandzakanyi leswi hi ri vandla ra ANC hi nga tivaka swa ku hi ta swi lulamisa hi ku ya ka nkarhi mutshami wa xitulu nhlangano wa ANC wu tibohile leswaku ku va ni dyondzo ya mahala ku pfuna vana hinkwavo hi tlhela hi tiboha ku engetela nhlayo ya swikolo leswi nga hakeliki no fee schools. The ANC plays support for the eradication of adult illiteracy. It is by no surprise that the department is committed to reduce the number of illiteracy adults by 4.7 million through Karigude mass literacy campaign by 2017. The program has already reached 3.9 million as I'm speaking today, at the cost of 2.97 billion since the inception in 2008. This program plans, Chairperson, to enroll 10,000 and 30,000 learners by 2018-19 at the cost of 5 million. Siyaqhuba. Mutshami wa xitulu ni lava ku rhanga ni heta hi ku vula leswaku n'wina hinkwenu kwale kaya eMkhuhlu eGoromane eMtuvatuva eJozini ka Mandlakazi ka Msogwava si xota ngawe siyaqhuba.
Thank you, Honorable Member Khosa. I will now call upon Honorable Member NC Majeke.
Thank you, Chairperson, Honorable Ministers, members, people at the gallery and viewers at home. The United Democratic Movement supports the budget. However, we would like to drive home the few following issues for the department to pay attention to. The reason why education is such an important pillar towards South Africa's development pathway is because a proper education remains the only way to break the cycle of underdevelopment and poverty in the majority South Africans are still caught in. A proper education has the potential to increase the employability or income-generating capacity of South Africa's majority poor, thereby enabling them to be employed or be entrepreneurs in their own right, mitigating on the high inequality levels in South Africa. The important element to accept is that history alone is not the only reason why South Africa's education system has serious challenges. 3 critical factors are affecting educational outcomes. And according to Jennifer Schindler, a specialist manager in Joint Education Trust, Education Services, and non-profit research and development organizations, these can be termed as follows, I quote: in-classroom factors such as teaching and resources, in-school factors such as leadership and management, and out-of-school factors such as parental involvement and socio-economic circumstances. The content knowledge of teachers is a serious challenge. Education is only as good as your teacher, and the demise of teacher training colleges robs of an opportunity to produce teachers with basic pedagogic and content knowledge competencies needed to impart the skills needed by our learners. Teacher training colleges provided a focused approach in the development of teachers and instill a sense of pride among teachers and in teaching general. A well-run school with a good principal produces excellent results. School management is largely a function of a principal, is one of the in-school factors that requires urgent attention. District offices are supposed to support and monitor schools both in administration and subject areas. The fact that often they are understaffed with personnel which may not have the right skills make it difficult for them to play this role meaningfully. And the role of school governing bodies also needs to be looked into very critically. Out-of-school factors such as poverty shackle the attitude of parents and society towards education. Accordingly, the United Democratic Movement chairperson suggests that early in the schooling system, the focus should be on producing learners who can
Honourable
read,
Member, you're left
write,
with 1 minute.
and count. This also means that early childhood development should be directly linked to the mainstream education system. Put in place internal controls to increase accountability, transparency of the learning process, and the use of resources towards education at all government levels and in the classroom. Dedicated focus in improving the infrastructure in townships and rural schools. The reported Eastern Cape failure to spend its infrastructure budget while many schools remain in danger to learners and teachers must also come to an end. Honourable Chairperson, the burning of schools in Limpopo is a criminal activity and must be treated as such. Law must be fully enforced. Again, United Democratic Movement supports the budget. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member Macheke. I will now call upon Honourable Member A.D. Alberts.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, ek praat altyd mooi, maar julle hou nie altyd wat ek sê nie. Minister, your department plays a crucial role in establishing the ability of people to effectively and successfully create a viable economy. Many of our economic ills can be traced back to the education system. Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan notes that education is one of the structural problems currently facing our economy. Ten einde dus werkloosheid te bekamp, moet ons die basiese onderwysstelsel regryk. Daar is 'n paar kwessies waarvan die minister moet kennis neem ten einde kwaliteit onderrig te verseker. Firstly, infrastructure. We have alluded to this last year and need to emphasize that many of the ills plaguing the basic education system is to be found in a lack of infrastructure and especially more schools. This challenge does not only lead to children being schooled under trees and in mud huts, but is often in conflict with the constitutional principle of instruction in one of the official languages which facilitates mother tongue schooling. The lack of schools results in single medium schools being forced to accommodate other language learners, whereby English becomes the bridging language and inevitably the only language of instruction. Therefore, more non-English single medium schools must be built. The second problem relates to language as instruction. As you would know, Minister, it is a scientific fact that learners who are instructed in their mother tongue at the foundation phase comprehend difficult concepts much easier. The problem we face is that most learners are being taught in English that is, in most cases, their second to fifth language. It is impossible for these learners, many of whom are very poor, to fight their daily circumstances and excel at a school where they first have to come to grips with difficult subjects like mathematics in English. The only way out of poverty is to allow them to understand and excel in their own language. And thirdly, provincial education. Minister, we request the Minister to take a closer look at problems in the provinces. One example is the conduct in the Gauteng province under MEC Lesufi. We pointed out last year that the MEC has embarked on an ideologically driven program to force single medium Afrikaans schools to become English schools. The process is ostensibly driven on the premise that not enough schools are available in the province. Maar meneer Lesufi ontvang egter 'n wesenlike begroting om nuwe skole te bou, maar doen dit glad nie. Hy het self gesê dat hy nie nuwe skole gaan bou nie, al het hy 'n begroting daarvoor ontvang. Ons het daarom hom by die ouditeur-generaal aangegee wat aan ons onderneem het om hom te ondersoek of hy dan voldoen aan die openbare finansiële bestuurswet al dan nie. Die minister moet asseblief agslaan op die LER se optrede voordat die rasisme daarvan in die regering se gesigte ook ontplof. Want ons weet daar is baie sprake van rasisme wat oor en weer gegooi word in ons samelewing en ons moet baie versigtig daarmee omgaan. So, Minister, we ask you to attend to these problems for the sake of our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member Alberts. I will now call upon Honourable Member Dudley. Order.
Thank you, Chair. The ACDP is encouraged by the Minister's recognition that parts of the education system are in fact in crisis. So much has been done and yet huge challenges remain. Challenges which have been alluded to by previous speakers, but with as many as 40% of students continuing to drop out before they write their national senior certificate exams, we know we have a long way to go. The need to bridge the gap between poor, marginalized learners from all provinces in South Africa, especially from rural areas in Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal, and the Eastern Cape, and other more privileged learners, is still an urgent priority. And the ACDP notes efforts to address what has been called a two-tier education system by tackling teacher absenteeism, poor results, financial mismanagement, lack of furniture, poor infrastructure, sanitation, and unfilled vacancies. Honourable Minister, the reported decision not to appeal the Supreme Court judgment upholding learners' rights to be provided with their full complement of textbooks before the commencement of the academic year has encouraged many stakeholders concerned about disparities. Textbook delivery must, however, continue to be monitored closely, and we note that Section 27 has urged those affected by lack of delivery to SMS textbooks to 44984 to contact the BEFA Secretariat should they experience shortages. The ACDP believes our ability to produce and retain school teachers in sufficient numbers is a pressing concern, as it will impact on both access and quality of education in the short and long term. Learner enrollment is expected to rise from about 12.4 million in 2013 to 13.4 million in 2023, according to some estimates. To meet increased learner enrollment, teacher numbers will need to expand from 426,000 in 2013 to about 456,000 in 2025, which is approximately 30,000 teachers over 12 years. According to some reports, South Africa is losing thousands of teachers annually to the UK, Australia, Canada, and other countries, including the Middle East and Asia. The reason most often given is better salaries, and the exodus, they say, is showing no sign of slowing down. A primary school teacher in South Africa, we're told, earns an average of about 148,000 per year, and a high school teacher earns an average salary of 166,000 per year. Sadly, experience has only a moderate effect on income, and most teachers move on to other jobs after 20 years, if not before, whether within the country or overseas. Inadequate benefits, including medical aid and housing subsidies, add to the temptation when faced with a better offer. The ACDP calls on both government and members of parliament to seriously consider the urgent need for better salaries, benefits, opportunities for promotion,
Honourable Member,
and
1 minute
recognition
left.
for achievements and long service, to create greater incentives for teaching as a career choice, and to significantly improve teacher retention. More than ever before, educators must meet the increasing demands of today's rapidly changing society. Ongoing training and support is also essential, not only to skillfully address new challenges and meet students' needs, but to increase job satisfaction. Lastly, the ACDP recognises the importance of the annual national assessment, which has great value with regard to supporting professional development in providing meaningful and credible feedback aimed at continuously improving educator performance and student results. The ACDP calls on the Minister to ensure that annual assessments are not undermined or sacrificed in the wake of other agendas. The ACDP will support this budget, which must meet the challenge of providing education that meets the needs of the people of South Africa. And we recognise, Honourable Minister and the Department, the work being done. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member Dudley. I'll now call upon Honourable Member L.M. Njaisa.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chair. As a committee, we have considered the report as a summary from the presentation made by the Department for Education, SAIS, and Umalusi, that is its statutory bodies. Our focus was on the department's strategic plan, the annual performance plan, and the 2016-17 budget. It is therefore our mandate to make it a point that proper allocations are made to programs so as to bring service to the people as expected. It is also imperative that we as a committee play a very important role between the public representatives and the communities. As indicated, the programs have been properly aligned to the National Development Plan, the Mid-Term Strategic Framework of 2014-19, and as a form from the department's, they form part of the department's action plan. We wish that the National School Nutrition, the continuous professional teacher development, and the scholar transport are thoroughly looked into. These programs now must be properly managed. The scholar transport in particular has just become a headache. Learners are just loaded into buckets like mealie bags, and traffic cops just turn a blind eye to that. The Department of Transport must also be roped in as a form of intergovernmental relations strategy. We as AIC also encourage the promotion of maths, science and technology because the world is moving very fast, so we've got to teach this subject in our schools thoroughly. We also appreciate the decision that has been taken by the department to come up with the model of annual national assessment, CISANA, because it was just getting out of control and teachers were refusing to implement this. For sure now, once it has just been modelized, then now teachers will be in a position to implement. The committee has to play an oversight role in all these programs as a mandate so that the communities benefit. As AIC, we condemn the burning of schools in particular and the government property in general. How we wish that these people that are protesting should learn a very good lesson now from the people from Matatiela. We were so peaceful. We conducted our protest in a very peaceful manner.
Honourable members, don't drown the speaker.
We didn't burn any schools. We didn't burn any government property. We're just as peaceful as always, but unfortunately you didn't gain anything. Let me come to the non-negotiables.
1 minute left.
There should be the learner support material. 1 textbook per learner, per subject, and per grade, so that now our learners do not suffer. Learners cannot afford now to be without teacher. There must be a teacher in front of the learner each and every time. Then teachers must teach, learners must learn. I think the department now should pay attention to the infrastructure, the basic services, and these should be maintained. All schools should have ICT as a part of the operation package. We appreciate the 3-stream schooling system, that is academic, technical occupational, and technical vocational, because this is an improvement of our curriculum in particular. The teacher-learner well-being and safety at school now should be also prioritized, because there are so many events in which our schools, rather learners and teachers, are not safe at schools. So we should make the conditions
Honourable
of school
Member,
to be
your time has
conducive
expired.
to learning and teaching. Finished?
Yes.
Is it? Thank you very much. In any way, now we do support the budget.
Thank you, Honourable Nchaisa. Order. Order. I will now call upon Honourable Member Mbinda. Mr.
Is that on our list?
Thanks. Greetings to you, Madam Speaker, and all honorable members. Let me maybe first open my debate by quoting our founder member, former PAC President, Robert Sobukwe, when he said, open quotes, education to us means service to Africa. Without education, no nation can effectively and adequately deal with the everyday challenges and would not avoid future challenges that they might face as a nation. Moving out of Bantu education, the present government was duty-bound to introduce a radical program to root out the teachings of Bantu education. Bantu education was training our people to be better slaves, whom their work was to serve the interest of their masters. Since 1994, the government has been acting like a man who has just lost their mind, especially when dealing with the question of education. One curriculum is being introduced after the other, and they all seem irrelevant and not responsive to our nation needs. Let us begin with the infrastructural capacity for teaching and learning in our public school, which this government is moving at a snail pace to expand. In Garangua since '94, there has always been one primary school per section since apartheid, and that is still the case even today. What the government is doing is just changing names and painting colors while our children are subjected to overcrowding in classes. In the Eastern Cape, there are still mud schools that are located in the most dangerous of areas, which students have to walk long distances in mountainous areas, having to cross rivers and dams. And that is happening after 22 years of democracy. As a country, we should look at our priorities and begin to invest our resources correctly in the future of our children. That will in turn translate to the future of our country. Millions and millions of rands are being used to host international sporting events like these unexplainable solar renovations of presidential houses and exorbitant salaries and benefits to parliamentarians and many other wasteful expenditures. They should come to a stop, and we must rather invest in education. And on behalf of the PAC, obviously we support because we want the kids to continue.
Thank you, Honourable Member Mbinda. I will now call upon Honourable Member van der Walt.
Okay. Honourable House Chair, yesterday I spent my day in Vuvani, Limpopo. The devastation I saw there was truly heartbreaking. I dedicate this speech to every learner in Vuvani who has been denied their constitutional right to attend school, both the learners from the damaged schools and those whose schools aren't open because out of fear. Infrastructure is an essential part of education. It includes classrooms, computer laboratories, sport facilities, water, sanitation and electricity. Toch het dit van die grootste ewels onder die ANC-regering geword. It has become an easy road to riches for the connected few as we see the cost of building projects sky high. Too often, contractors are paid in full before projects are completed, and departments are left with abandoned projects and learners without classrooms or schools. What actions have been taken against officials and contractors at fault? Nothing. Limpopo has many such examples, a province that for quite some time was under Section 101B administration of this department, and I see the previous administrator is present, wasn't fixed, and today it is still under intervention of the Provincial Treasury. As we have seen in Vuvani last week, both the national and provincial education departments have not learned the meaning of proactive, as no steps were taken in advance to secure the infrastructure of our schools. Didn't we learn anything from the burning of schools in Malamulele last year when the very same demarcation issue was on the table? The result is that 24 schools were set alight and thousands of learners are now at home. To make matters worse, we were told yesterday that close to 50 schools in the surrounding areas are closed. What will happen to these learners from a mostly poor area? What future and economic freedom will they have without continuous education? But infrastructure doesn't end with buildings. Water, sanitation, electricity is critical. Far too many schools do not have water, and it is not because of the drought. It is all proudly brought to communities by the ANC due to non-delivery of basic services, and shame on you, Honourable Member. Children are not attending school as they are sent home because there just isn't water at schools. We witnessed in several towns last month in the East London and in Falwater. Sanitation seems to be only a matter of urgency on paper. Only the DA-governed Western Cape have successfully eradicated pit toilets completely. Not a single ANC-governed province. In eMatlatleni, Gauteng, I see MEC Lesufi is present. Eastern Cape, KZN and Limpopo, we have seen toilets that should indeed be bulldozed. It is so bad and dangerous that we asked the South African Human Rights Commission to investigate. The question is, how is the infrastructure norms and standards spent? Will funds be given to provinces as conditional grants, and will they report on such spending to ensure our children's needs, safety and dignity are the #1 priority? Chairperson, the people of South Africa are losing faith in this government's capacity to deliver. That is why this year, on 3rd of August, more and more people will make a different choice. They will vote for a party with a proven track record in education and service delivery. They will vote for change. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Van der Walt. I'll now call upon Honourable Member TZM Koza.
Honourable Chair, Ministers present, Deputy Minister, Honourable Members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, ngiyanibingelela. Kulendzandvo elinyenti lesafufusako letama kukhumula emajokwe okungalingani lubandlululo nekucindzeteleka lephokophelele kuba bombetha bebuntu ubuntu kulingana nekulinganisa kuto tonke tinhlelo tawo onke emacembu alelive letigucukako tiphindze tidlondlobale sitimisele kubambelela. Angisho ke ukuthi kumhlonishwa Mbinda siyabonga kusupporta kepha siyafisa ukusilenyela ngasike sikubone ekomitini utokhuluma indolo yatiko. This time in our history, more than ever before, we have a responsibility to raise the bar and ensure that we leave our country and its people the legacy of solid and quality basic education. This must enable all young children in our country, despite their economic and social background, to have access to quality basic education and ensure that we can improve their potential and opportunities for future development. It is against this background that the ANC-led government deliberately, consciously declared improved quality basic education as priority number 1. Let us ensure that we harness our collective energies, a call made by the ANC that we must deliver on this important assignment, which the generation of young people today expect to receive from all of us. Thank you, Mhlonishwa Macheke, for supporting this call by supporting the budget. We therefore welcome the developments that we have noted within the work of the Minister of Basic Education to date. It is important to acknowledge that despite the challenges that still exist, the system has continued to show signs of improvement. The ANC-led government has improved the lives of people of South Africa, giving them hope and increasing opportunities for economic participation. This is reflected in the comparison done on the numbers of candidates who passed matric from 1970 to 2015. In 1970, only 43,000 learners passed matric. In 2000, the number was 283,294 learners. Honorable Chair, this improvement can only be attributed to the existence and commitment of the ANC-led government in improving the lives of the people of South Africa. Last year, 2015, about 825 learners passed matric despite the teaching stages of the transformation process. Honorable Davis, can I take you into confidence that schools between quintile 1 and 3 reflected the following improvement in 2015 NSC results? More than 80.5% of schools between quintile 1 and 3 met the minimum standard. It doesn't mean that best educators are in white schools. 52% of bachelor's passes in the 2015 NSC exams were from rural schools. The less said by Honorable Matloko, who is not here anymore, the better. Kuyingoti kubhalelwa inkulumo ngoba ufika unhlanhlathe ehlathini. The KZN story by Honorable Mabika is not there. Fika babe attend imhlangano yel committee, you will know the facts. Honorable Chair, these improvements cut across communities in deep rural areas.
Order, Honourable Member Koza, take your seat. Honorable member, what are you rising on?
Umhlonishwa akabe clear which story is not there. Which story?
Honorable member, what are you rising on?
The honorable member must be clear as to which story is not there in KZN.
Honorable member, may
You
you
must
please
not
take your
just-
seat?
You mustn't just say the story in KZN is not there. Which one?
Honorable member, take your seat. Honorable member, you may proceed. Order. Honorable member, you may proceed.
Indeed, Minister, we welcome the fact that the ANC-led government refocuses education service delivery in terms of goal number 4 of the sustainable development, which is about ensuring inclusivity and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. I mean for all, Honorable Boshoff. I don't know, Gutsi, leti balobalo letining letingaka of the disabled people utithatha kuphi? Mhlambe uma ungatiletha tibe khona ngoba kuleti ndzawo lesihlala kuto asitiboni. Principles used to determine the performance of an education system are access, redress, equity, efficiency, and quality, which is work in progress. Honorable Chair, allow me to make this House aware of the findings of a comparison of 5-year-olds attending educational institutions between 2005 and 2014, and learners benefiting from National School Nutrition Program between 2010 and 2014 per province, in terms of the statistics of South Africa General Household Survey. Almost all the provinces on the 5-year-olds, they are moving up to 80% and above in terms of increasing. Shame on Western Cape because it is still at 71.6%. However, we have to indicate that in the National School Nutrition Program, all the provinces are showing a sign of improvement. It's only the Northern Cape that has dropped due to the closure of non-viable schools. Honorable Chair, this is an improvement indeed. This has been marked by the decline in dropout rate across the grades between 2007 and 2012. Honorable Chair, we welcome the department's initiative towards the introduction of the three-stream model, which will cater for most of the learners who do not want to follow the academic stream, not those who failed to follow the academic stream, but those who do not want. That is a fact. Examination and assessment influences classroom practices and exerts a full potential on standards of teaching and learning. Part of the drive to improve the quality of education is the raising of the standard of the NSC examination. The Department of Basic Education has given attention to capacitating districts by promulgating a policy on the organization, roles, and responsibilities of districts. This policy was successfully mediated in all provinces, and provinces have made progress in aligning the district towards this policy. This policy is clear in how districts should unpack the basket of services in supporting schools. The policy further expressed delegation of authority that should be accorded to district by provincial head of departments. The establishment of the Planning and Delivery Oversight Unit has yielded positive results in that a number of underperforming districts has been reduced tremendously. The following is the list of most improved, predominantly rural districts in 2015 NSC examination due to the effort of this unit. Thabo Mafutsanyana in Free State, 87.3. Ehlanzeni district, where we have Kulangwane Seket, who had its high schools getting over 80%, with Mzili scoring 100%, is at 82.4%. Nkangala in Mpumalanga is 81.7%. Buhlabelo in Mpumalanga is 76.7%. Namakwa in Northern Cape, 76.5%. Vembe in Limpopo is 74.7%. Kradok in Eastern Cape, 71.6%. Umlazi in KZN is 72.6%. Honorable Chair, the list is endless. Siyaqhuba. Inkundla manje seyiyalingana. Eminyakeni lengamashumi lamabili nakubili leyengcile lelitiko libubeketelele buhlungu bangaphambili labuguqula labenda emafutha endlela. Imvukutselo yethu ikonziseke kahle ekuguquleni umcondo waFervoet wekuthi bantu labamnyama ngete batenda tibalo. Namhla sibona labasikati labanyenti labahlabanako etifundweni tetibalo netescience. Kuyathusa noko ukuthi lilunga lelihloniphekile lelingumnumzane Davis liyafika la liyamlacata Verwoerd alisamada kasasiwalo wenu noma ningathini. Kuthusa futhi kuva lilunga lelingu Albert still believing that they can use Africans to prevent blacks learners to their former Africans only schools. No, we're not going there and we're not compromising. We have to change the system. The mandate to improve school infrastructure is derived from the outcome number 1 of the government's
Honourable Member,
2014.
could you please take a seat?
Chairperson.
Honourable Member, what are you raising
On
on?
a point of order.
Point of order.
Thank you. The Speaker just said that we are trying to pretend that Verwoerd was not a member of our party. And that is misleading this House and the nation. Verwoerd was never a member of our party. In fact, he was a member of some of the members sitting on the ANC benches. He was a member of their party and the leader of their party, not ours. I think the record needs to be corrected.
Order, so that I can make a ruling on this one. Order, so that I can make a ruling. Honourable Member, it's not a point of order, it's a point of debate. Honourable Members, it is a point of debate. Please take your seat.
Chairperson, may I address you, please, on a point of order?
Are you coming on another point of order?
Chairperson, there's one thing having a debate and engaging ideas. That's fair enough. But when you deliberately mislead the House, that is a separate issue altogether. And that's what that honourable member is doing, is misleading the House. I have no problem with having a debate.
You must submit a submitted motion. You can't just say that requires a substantive motion. That accusation.
Okay, order. Honourable Member, I still maintain that this is a point of debate because you are responding to a matter that he has raised in his debate. Yes, it is a point of debate and case closed.
Chair, we will definitely take this matter further.
But, Honourable Member, shall we proceed? There's another point of order this side. Honourable Member, what are you raising on?
Chair, may the member repeat exactly as what the member has raised in the debate in the African language, because I think here we might be playing about semantics. May he repeat?
Well, Honourable Member, I'm afraid your point of order is not sustained. Shall we proceed with the debate?
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo. The mandate to improve school infrastructure is derived from outcome number 1 of government's 2014 to 2019 medium-term strategic framework, which commits government to invest in school infrastructure, and that infrastructure activities account to the bulk of the department spending. His Excellency, the President Jacob Zuma, in his State of the Nation address, committed the government to improving infrastructure schools in order to create conducive environment for teaching and learning. He indicated that the Accelerated School Infrastructure Delivery Initiative is part of the National Infrastructure Plan. He furthermore stated that the National Infrastructure Development Program continues to be a key job driver and catalyst for economic growth, and that water is a critical resource for economic growth and better life. Yes, we agree that in some of the areas we still have challenges with water, but we have addressed it. It is no more the same as before 1994. It will never go back to that. The provision of infrastructure remains a major
Member,
need
1 minute left.
in rural areas. That is why the ANC-led government had pulled together all resources, making sure that there is a sustainable human settlement in rural areas, which include the provision of houses, access to schools, clinics, and recreational facilities, among others. Honorable Chair, we are proud to indicate that through ASIDI, the Department of Basic Education was
Order.
able to hand over 107 state-of-the-art schools, which has got all the
Order.
facilities that are needed in a school situation.
Honourable
So
member,
where
may you
there are
please
challenges
respect
is what
the
we've
decorum of the
inherited
House.
from the apartheid system.
Honourable
But we're
member.
still addressing those.
Order.
Honorable Chair, we welcome the
Order.
budget and would like to acknowledge that it is in essence inadequate to address the historical backlogs of the period prior to 1994. Although
Honourable
it will
member,
be able to find targeted
your time has
infrastructure
expired.
programs in this current ANC support.
Honourable member, just a reminder that I am working cooperatively with the front table. So you can't tell me what time I should ask the member to sit down, because I have to rely on the two officials who have been allocated to do just that. So please, let's not disrespect this House. Thank you very much. I will now call upon Honourable Member, the Honourable Minister of Basic Education, Honourable Member Motshekga. Order.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Let me acknowledge MECD Sufi. I didn't notice that he was here. Thank you very much for attending. And Chair, also want to thank all members who participated in this debate, and including the peacetime heroes who left now in the red overall, so there's nothing even to talk about. Thank them also for their 1 cent piece of contributions. Chair, what I really want to use the remaining time for is just quickly clarifying the point that Member Davis made around the 3 streams, because we are very excited and I think to be unfortunate to spread wrong information on the 3 streams. The 3 streams are not meant to be dumping areas for our learners. They are meant to assist us to change the colonial, not even the colonial education landscape, where there's more focus on academic, and the world internationally, Chair, is getting a balance between technical skills and vocational skills. So it is not all the learners that are going to be taken there because they have learning disabilities. For instance, the school which the MEC was opening yesterday, the Curtis Nkondo School of Specialization, it's one such school. Learners were strictly selected in terms of their aptitudes. We took the best. The principal is a top achiever with a PhD. The teachers, the minimum qualifications, an honors degree. And these are not learners who are being dumped there, but it's learners who have different interests, aptitudes, and abilities. And as I say, we're beginning to respond for the first time much more aggressively. We've been doing it much more aggressively to deal with the colonial education landscape, to ensure that we are in line with international trends. The DG had visited Germany last week. He told me that already Germany's at 60-40, so that's where the world is going. So it's not that
Honourable Minister, your time is up.
No, I want to thank members, Chair, and say to all members who participated in the debate, because of time we're unable to respond, but can say to the Chair, we are most willing to come and respond to all the points made from language policies, learners with special needs, and we are very willing to come. So, but thank members very much for the... Stop shouting. Voters. Thank you very much, Chair.
Well, thank you, Honourable Member.